Hey, it's Ian. Welcome back to this special series of videos focused on helping you defeat your mental demons, break free mentally, and finally achieve the level of performance and enjoyment on the court that you deserve. If you've already seen video 1, you know that things sounded extremely grim for each of our 5 players. If you haven't seen it yet, be sure to do so because you'll learn what the top warning signs are that your game may be at risk for a huge downturn. Thankfully, they found out about the principles taught by a peak performance expert by the name of Ed Sang. You're going to hear about their amazing transformation soon, but first I want to introduce you to Ed and let him explain his approach to mental toughness. Recently, he made a trip to Essential Tennis headquarters to spend some time with us and create some new coaching for tennis players. His first day here, we all sat down together to discuss what the zone is, how getting there is much easier than most people think, and also why traditional approaches to mental toughness just don't work.
What comes to mind when you hear of a great performance? Right? Can you give me an example, or maybe even in your own career, what is that experience? And basically what I'm asking is, how would you describe the zone?
I would say that feeling for me is everything is kind of slowed down. You start to see things before they happen. You feel prepared, confident in every first decision that you make. And maybe it's just a case of things going well for you that day. But yeah, that's what I would consider the zone, is where you just feel that everything that you are doing is the right action at that moment.
And what if you could experience that consistently?
Well, I'd probably be a Wimbledon champion.
Maybe. All right, let's hop to Ian.
Performance?
How would you describe the zone? What words and description come to mind?
I would say, for me, being in the zone, what it feels like is just a sense of just being present and in the moment. And similar to what Ira said, things kind of slowing down. And I guess for me, that's what that means, is I'm just totally experiencing what's happening right now. I'm not concerned about who's going to win or lose this point. What's the crowd think about me? When I miss that forehand into the net, it's just complete focus on the present moment.
I like it. Kirby?
For me, the zone is all about when the mental and the physical align. So when your plan actually gets executed and you also have this sense of calm about you. And for me, I struggle a lot with negative self-talk. So when that's at ease, it's there's nobody in the world who's harder on me than me. And when that's at ease and I feel like I am in control of what's going on court, then it creates this kind of perfect feeling where things are working out, and then there's also like an optimum level of enjoyment that I'm receiving out of the experience. So that to me is the zone.
Yeah, I love that, because why do people play tennis? Because they enjoy it. And when I give lectures, I ask the audience, do people sing to get to the end of the song? Right? Of course not. They sing because they enjoy singing. Well, if you play tennis because you enjoy the game, why would you do things to sabotage that? Like believe the self-talk, right? Or, bang your racket, or focus on the crowd, or what if I lose, like Ian said. If I were to describe the zone, the words that come to mind for me are flow, right? It's just flowing. So it's not that we don't have those negative thoughts, it's just that they're just coming and going, right? And one of the things that, one of the critiques I have gotten from clients is, when you talk about the mental game, you said that I shouldn't think, right? Well, first of all, I've never said that. Second of all, it's impossible to not think. But if you can have a better relationship to your thinking, when you care less about that negative self-talk, then guess what? You come back to the moment, right? So it's not that we're not thinking, but it's like the tip of the iceberg, right? We see some of our thinking, but most of our thinking's under the surface. It's unconscious, and we don't always know what the thoughts are, but we're always feeling those thoughts, right? So to me, the zone is almost like an out-of-body experience. Can you guys relate to that? It's almost like it's just happening. And you know, a client of mine is a nationally or worldwide ranked wheelchair tennis player, and he said to me recently, he said, "I got it." And I said, "What did you get?" He's like, "The mental game." He said, "I just played the best match of my life, and I was so in the zone that I didn't realize that the match was over. I looked across the net, my opponent was getting ready to shake my hand." Right?
Wow.
So that's the potential that we all have. And so it's not about creating strategies or techniques on how to get there. I mean, probably the biggest question I get is, "All right, Ed, I like what you do. Now tell me how to get to the zone." Right? And when people ask me that, I know they don't get it. I know they don't understand how the mind works. How would you describe the opposite, a slump, when you're in a funk, a poor performance? Kirby?
I have to go back to that negative self-talk.
Yep.
It's when that rules, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's louder.
Yeah, it's the loudest voice in your head, and then of course your mentality goes to that, and then your performance physically goes to that, and it's just, it's the worst feeling when you have these things in your head to execute, and you can't make it happen, and you just feel like you're forcing.
That's right.
Something that's not happening. So, that's the struggle.
It's almost like, playing some beautiful classical music, and then somebody comes in the room and turns the TV on as loud as it can. The beautiful classical music's still playing, but you can't hear it because the TV's too loud. So when we have poor performances, that negative voice, trumps it, and it's louder, even though we have that confident voice still softly playing within.
Yes.
Is that a good analogy? No, I love that. That's great. Ian?
The first thought that came to mind for me was, I just feel like a different person. Like emotionally, I just go to a really kind of dark and negative, place when I'm like the opposite of being in the zone for me. And that was when I was competing, in college, that was my big struggle was negativity for sure. And to mirror, or just to repeat what Kirby said, it's just it's like a visceral feeling of just negativity. Yeah.
And so, when you talk about feeling like a different person, you kind of are. Your IQ is actually lower when you're in a lower state of mind. Right? Have you guys ever been in a low state of mind?
All those down the line shots make so much sense.
That's why I play so stupid.
That's right. No, it's true. I mean, have you ever been in a low state of mind and you did or said something you regretted later when you were in a better place? Yeah. Every human being on the planet has done that, right? So that's reason enough not to believe that little voice when you're in that low state of mind. When you're in a high state of mind, that voice will tell you what to do, and it'll be right. Ira?
I have a little bit different. I guess I have never really been that negative that you guys are feeling, where it's just like the worst feeling ever. I get angry, of course, and berate myself in my head, but it's never gotten. And as a result of that, my slumps have come where I just haven't played well for periods of time. I guess the word that I would describe it as is awkward. You just don't feel physically connected with what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and honestly, it doesn't matter if you feel awkward or have anger or feel like a different person or have a lot of negative self-talk. I think ultimately, if it affects your performance, there's something missing. In fact, somebody came up to me recently, and she's a tennis player in Ohio, nationally ranked junior. And she said, "Ed, you're my last hope. I went to one of the top sports psychologists in the tennis world, and I got no benefit." And she said, "Can you help me?" And I said, "Well, let me guess, what that person did with you." And she said, "Sure." And I said, "Well, he probably talked about visualization, goal setting, affirmations, right?" She said, "Yeah, bingo." He gave me she said, he gave me a list of 10 things to do when I was on the court, and I couldn't play. So I said, "There's good news." I said, "There's good news for you. I'm not going to teach you those things." This is someone who was having panic attacks on the tennis court and was ready to quit the game that she loved. Well, there's a happy ending. I'm still working with her, but she said, "You know what? I'm playing the best tennis of my life. I've never felt more confident, and I didn't realize it was so simple, right? So that's a pretty extreme example. But if she can go from that to playing the best she's ever played, imagine what the rest of you can do.
There's hope for me?
There's hope for you.
All right.
I was not sure. So, shifting gears a little bit, what would you say most people try to do when they're in a funk? Or what have you done, or tried when you were in a funk?
I would say most people, for lack of a better word, most people try some form of trickery, of self-trickery.
Right.
Like they identify and realize that they're getting negative or whatever their personal pattern happens to be, and they try to force a different dialogue into their head. And I would say that's definitely something I did in the past. Yeah, I can't say I ever had like a strategy on the court when I was having issues.
Fair enough.
Well, I think it's interesting that you use the word force, because that's the word that came to my mind, is just forcing something to fit when it's not.
That's right.
It's not fitting.
Yeah.
You continue just going up against the same brick wall and it's not working.
It's like putting the wrong lid on a jar and you keep trying to make it happen.
Exactly, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So,
Which kind of makes it worse.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Too frustrated.
Right.
It reminds me, I had a coach growing up. I had a time where I went through, I was really young. I was like 12 at the time. But I couldn't convert on critical points. So literally, I had a match where it went to 3 sets, but I could have just smoked this girl. And the reason, I would get up 40 love, and she would win, and she'd come back and win the game, like every time. And so my coach just said, just tell yourself, just like fake it till you make it. Just tell yourself
it's love for you.
I got this,
Right,
I got this,
Yeah.
and until it happens. So, I think to me that's an example of forcing something that's not working.
Well, it's like putting, slapping a positive thought on a negative feeling doesn't work, right? Have you ever been in a bad mood and someone said, "Oh, just think of something positive"?
Or
You're
just
like,
smile.
screw you, right? Yeah, exactly, right? And it's kind of like putting a cat outfit on a dog, right? It's still a dog, Ira?
Yeah, I think for me, especially for tennis, I tend to play a little bit more conservative, and so that hurts me sometimes. That's probably the only thing that I would really add to what Ian and Kirby said.
When you're in a negative mood, you're saying you play more conservative?
Yeah, because I'll know that, like, for whatever reason, something is not going right, so I play a little bit more conservative to kind of like counterbalance that until I feel better, and then I'll go out a little bit more.
Yeah, for you that may be a good strategy, but for someone else, it may not be.
Yeah.
So that's good.
For me, when I go conservative, it's more so trying to get that feeling,
Get your rhythm back.
Yeah, like trying to force it until it comes back, and that can be a great thing. And it hasn't, it's worked and it's not worked for me in the past.
Sure. And it kind of goes back to what Ian said earlier, right? Being in the moment, right? When you're in the moment, that's when you're at your best. But when you fast forward to the future, you rewind to the past, that's when we kind of get stuck, all right? So I had a client recently, she said, I used to try to control my thinking, control my feelings, and I used to try to force my body to perform well, and it didn't work, right? It's kind of like forcing your body to walk. You'll probably, walk like Frankenstein, right? But if you just walk, your body knows what to do. But if you don't have this wonderful course, your body is going to have a different experience, right? The same way that when you wake up from an intense dream, your body's tight, your heart's racing, you might be sweating, but you were just lying in bed, right? So that's how powerful our thoughts are. And I'm going to get more and more in depth there, but it was funny because as I was on the plane over here, I was looking at the clouds, right? And so I was looking at the clouds, and they looked like white mountains, or like cotton balls, or even like piles of snow, and they looked solid, right? But knowing what I know, you go right through them, right? A plane goes right through them. They don't have to maneuver around the clouds. Well, to me, our thinking is the same way. Our thinking feels solid. It feels freaking real. And that's why dreams feel so intense. But the minute you wake up from a dream, it doesn't matter how intense it was, it doesn't matter how long it was. Once you realize it was a dream, you're good to go. So if you could start to see that thoughts seem solid, just like dreams are, but they're not, then you can bring yourself back to the present moment, and you can kick more butt, and you can perform more consistently at a high level.
So after hearing that conversation, you're probably saying to yourself, that all sounds great, but does Ed's approach actually work? That's a totally fair question, especially since you've probably tried many suggestions in the past from so-called experts, only to find yourself right back at square one with your frustration and poor performance. Well, in just the next day or so, you're going to hear the conclusion of the stories that we began in video 1 of this series. You'll hear right from the mouths of those players how mental tennis mastery and Ed's philosophy completely transformed their tennis performance, enjoyment of the game, and even the rest of their lives once they finally discovered how to naturally and easily find the zone. Their stories will motivate and inspire you to greater tennis heights, so make sure that you don't miss it. Keep an eye on your email for a link right to that video, and also follow us on YouTube and Facebook so you're sure to see the video right when it comes out. In the meantime, Ed and I would both love to hear from you in the comments down below. Our question for you today is, have you ever experienced the zone? If so, what was it like? Let us know down below, along with any other comments or questions that you might have about either of the 2 videos that you've seen so far. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.